Hey guys, sorry about missing lecture this afternoon. This is just kind of a recap of what I was going to discuss with you. We're looking at, um, well, we're on to week 3, and we're into um, our second habit for the 7 habits text. Basically, this week, what the habits are evaluating. Well, the first habit was, um, you know, looking at. Hold on, let me pull up our. I'm pulling up Moodle right now. It's lagging a little bit. But anyways, our first habit was being proactive, and it was talking about what it means to be proactive to pursue things and in a way kind of like use the gifts that God's given you and utilize those. Um, there's some lecture notes on this chapter, or on this, I guess you say, this topic, this habit. I'm going to pull those up right now. So if you want to follow along, you can. I actually have another resource that I've used in the past, has been really helpful. Um, and I found this, basically it's kind of a review of the book that I thought was kind of interesting. The review basically kind of gave a breakdown of the different habits, um, and basically like summarized each one. Ultimately, the goal of this book is to look at the different, or to look at paradigms and understand like how we use paradigms and principles to basically view our world. And so and to help kind of shape what we do. And so in the first chapter, or first chapter that you read, was on that whole paradigm shift and how principles and paradigms work, and some of the problems that we experience, in our day-to-day life, and things that we can expect to experience along the way, especially as we get into our professions. And these are things that constantly, they're always going to be there, and your profession and your environment is going to change. And so it's good to have a grasp on what your paradigm is, and how you view things, and the principles that you live by. And as Christians, it's good to reflect on this and make sure that we're staying in line with our beliefs, and really following what Jesus would want us to do in the way that he wants us to live. Um, so on the topic of proactivity, basically, there's a definition of being proactive, which is, it states as basically like creating or controlling a situation rather than responding to it after it's happened. Okay, so being proactive is going after something, and being confident in yourself, and taking on the responsibility, to take the initiative and get things done, not wait until it happens and have to respond to something that already occurred. So to be proactive, it means that you need to take on a responsibility and making things happen, not just waiting for them to happen to you. And Covey kind of gives some examples and goes on to say, like, you know, um, talks about the word responsibility. It's response and then ability. Um, and so our goal is to be proactive and respond according to the way things happen, but also to help try and control certain outcomes by taking the initiative and getting things done. Um, and then Kobe also explains that we're designed to be proactive. It's our nature to be proactive. For example, someone who is reactive will feel affected by the weather. On sunny days, they'll feel good and get things done. But when it's gloomy and dark, like today, they'll react by feeling down and unproductive. Whereas someone who is proactive will feel and act the same no matter the weather, because the conditions shouldn't dictate how they feel or behave. So talks about values quite a bit. Goes over how values drive people who are proactive, um, and that's an important thing to evaluate. Um, and then just being aware of your own proactivity. Okay. Uh, so moving on to habit two. Habit two focuses on well, the topic is begin with the end of mind or in mind. Um, Basically, it's about understanding the destination of any task or journey that you're beginning. um, it's having an understanding of where you're headed, is and making sure that it always benefits you while you're on the journey, so making sure that you're making the right decisions and you're taking the right steps along the way. So it's a concept of like, what is your goal? Think about what your end goal is, and then what steps are you taking now, um, to help you reach that goal. Like, are you on the right track? He covers a couple topics in like imagination, conscience, and self-awareness. Um, Talks about how imagination is like the key to visualizing your potential, and that and having a personal mission statement will help you focus on your character and who you want to be, where you want to go, what contributions you can make to society, and so forth. And then he kind of ends the chapter with looking at leadership and management. Um, so I highlighted some of these topics in the lecture notes. So feel free to go through those, and read through those notes. Those are just kind of like review material for the reading. There's no tests or anything on this material. In fact, if you look at Moodle, basically I just have the 4 PowerPoints, um, up through. Basically, I gave lecture topics for the first 2 habits, and then the fourth lecture is kind of like summarizing a lot of them, which we'll get to basically in like, well, next week I'll cover some of it, and we'll touch bases on the habits that you read through so far. The reading's going to keep picking up a little bit because once we get through the 5th week, which is in 2 weeks, we'll stop reading the habits book, and then we're actually gonna dive into our actual textbook. So the goal is to kind of focus on where are you at right now, what kind of what kind of impact do you want to make in your career, like where are you headed, tying in your faith, and I feel like it's important to get those foundations first before we dive in and start looking at the different topics in kinesiology. So hopefully this reading is encouraging and helpful and thought provoking. That's really the goal of this book. Just tie in your faith and develop your spiritual aspect of it. Another thing that I want to bring up is this weekend on Sunday, your goal setting assignment is due. So if you go on Moodle and you click on goal setting assignment, you will see the instructions on the assignment link. Basically, this instructions, I'll read them for you. It says to create a list of short-term and long-term personal and professional goals for yourself. You may choose to use information from the 7 habits of highly effective people as a guide, which we've been discussing. Your goals are to be personalized to you and should not be influenced by what others are not doing. You will have 2 groups of personal and professional short-term goals, including goals for the semester and then goals for next semester. So ideally, you're going to write down what your goals are right now for the spring, and then kind of project what your goals are for the fall and the start of the new school year. And then you will have 4 groups of personal and professional long-term goals. So first you're going to have, what are your goals for this semester, to finish out the spring, and then what are your goals for the start of the fall, for that semester. So think like calendar year, right? And then you're going to have 4 long-term goals. I want to know, what is your 1-year goal? Like a year from now, where do you want to be? Like, maybe end of spring next year. What's your 2-year goal? Probably your 2-year goal is going to be graduation. Most of you that are sophomores or juniors, right? Or if you're a junior, maybe your 1-year goal is graduation, and then looking at grad school or whatever field you go into. And then the third is your 5-year plan. Where do you want to be in 5 years? Do you want to have a master's degree or a doctorate, and starting your career in a certain field, or you want to be settled into a teaching position somewhere, maybe as a PE instructor or something like that. You want to open up your own business and own a gym, train athletes. Like, what are your goals? And then the fourth goal is just your tenure. Like, where do you want to be in 10 years? I think this is really important to sit down and think about. Not that these won't change, because they probably will, but it's good to just have an idea of where you're going and what you want to do, and to reflect on that. Now, I'll tell you right now, this assignment you will do again in 2 years, but it'll be a professional long term goal assignment when you take or maybe a year from now, depending on where you are in your program, when you take the senior seminar class with Dr. DeBall. So you'll review these again. So it's good to write these down and keep it, and then reevaluate it when you get into senior sem. I did ask that you use the SMART acronym or technique, and that stands for specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely, or time specific. It's good to use that, um, to evaluate each goal, to make sure it's specific. How do you measure it? How do you know that you've attained it? Is it a realistic goal? And then obviously when your time frame is. I asked at the bottom, I did state that make sure it's an APA format. You upload a Word document. If you don't have Word, convert whatever you're using to a PDF and submit it that way. Okay. Um, Great. I know one of you's already submitted it, which is awesome. Just make sure that you get this in by Sunday. That's all I have for you guys. If you have any questions, please feel free to shoot me an email anytime. I'm available. So otherwise, have a great rest of the week and stay dry.